The vastness of space held many secrets, but none so treasured by the Kryvax as their reputation. For millennia, they had been the apex predator species of the galaxy, earning their place through raw biological might. Their homeworld, Savar Prime, represented the pinnacle of what xenobiologists classified as Deathworlds, planets so inherently hostile that evolution produced only the strongest, most resilient life forms. The Kryvax, or Sivak as they called themselves in their clicking, growling language, were the undisputed masters of their domain, and by extension, much of the known galaxy. Fleet Admiral Christak stood at the command center of the 7th Fang Fleet, his massive frame casting a long shadow across the holographic displays. His leathery skin evolved to withstand acid rain and extreme radiation, rippled with anticipation as he studied the anomalous readings. 4 eyes, primary and secondary sets, scanned different data streams simultaneously, a biological advantage his species had developed over millions of years of evolutionary pressure. Anomaly XC42197 confirmed. Admiral, came the raspy voice of Pip, the fleet's primary analyst. The smaller Sivak, still imposing by any other species' standards, manipulated the display with her clawed appendages. A Class 5 planet with atmospheric and gravitational parameters far below survival thresholds, yet showing clear signs of advanced civilization. Christak's secondary eyes narrowed. Impossible. No sapient species could evolve in such gentle conditions. The word gentle came out as nearly a slur in Sivak language. His executive officer, Travak, stepped forward, her hunting crests fully extended in skepticism. Admiral, perhaps it's a colony world. Some species from a proper evolutionary crucible might have settled there. The electromagnetic emissions suggest otherwise, Pip countered. The communication patterns indicate a native species, one we've never encountered before. Centuries had passed since the Sivak had joined the Galactic Council. In that time, they had categorized, classified, and often subjugated countless species from across the stars. Their philosophy was simple: strength determined place, and the Sivak were strongest. Lesser species paid tribute or faced consequences. It was the natural order, one they enforced with religious zeal. Christak's primary heart quickened its pace. Discovery of a new species was rare enough to be noteworthy, but one that evolved on what amounted to a paradise by Sivak standards? Preposterous. Redirect the fleet, he ordered finally. I want to see these creatures for myself. Travak's hunting crests flattened against her skull in mild protest. Admiral, we're scheduled to oversee the tribute collection from the Vexar Confederation. Yes. They can wait. Christak dismissed with a casual wave of his armored hand. If there's truly a species that evolved in such weakness, yet achieved spaceflight, the Supreme Hunt Council will want to know. The massive ships of the 7th Fang Fleet, each resembling the ancient predators of Savar Prime, altered course with surprising grace. Their destination, a small blue planet in an unremarkable solar system. Earth. The approach to Earth's orbit took several solar cycles, during which time Christak immersed himself in the preliminary data. The planet was, indeed, embarrassingly benign by Sivak standards. Oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere with minimal toxins, moderate temperature ranges, gravity at roughly 60% of Savar Prime's crushing pull. Even the background radiation was negligible. This isn't a cradle for evolution, he muttered to himself. It's a nursery. When the fleet established orbit, the contradictions only multiplied. Biological readings from the planet's surface defied expectations. The dominant species, these humans, displayed physiological parameters that should have made them little more than prey. Their muscle density is laughable, Travak observed, studying the scans. Minimal natural armor, no redundant organs, single circulatory system, 2 eyes only, and those with limited spectrum visibility. Admiral, these creatures shouldn't even be capable of building tools, let alone spacecraft. Yet the evidence of advanced civilization was undeniable. Cities sprawled across continents, satellites orbited alongside the CVAC fleet, and, most confoundingly, transmissions showed these humans engaged in activities that seemed deliberately dangerous. "What are they doing there?" Christak demanded, pointing to a visual feed of humans hurling themselves off cliffs with nothing but fabric wings. "They call it extreme sports," Pip explained, her voice carrying unusual fascination. "They appear to voluntarily subject themselves to danger for recreation." Christak's secondary heart joined his primary in accelerated rhythm. The concept was so alien he struggled to process it. On Sivar Prime, survival itself was achievement enough. No CVAC would invite additional peril. "Establish communication," he ordered abruptly. "I want to speak with their leadership." The response came more quickly than anticipated. Within moments, a human face appeared on the main communication display. The creature was small, soft-looking, with no visible natural defenses whatsoever. "On behalf of the United Earth Federation, I welcome you to our system," the human said through the translation matrix. "I am Secretary General Liang of the United Nations. We detected your approach some time ago and have been preparing for first contact." Christak was momentarily speechless. The human showed no fear, no deference. It spoke as if addressing an equal, not the apex predator of the known galaxy. "I am Fleet Admiral Christak of the 7th Fang Fleet, representative of the CVAC Dominion and the Galactic Council," he responded finally, instinctively stretching to his full height. "Your world has been categorized as Anomaly XC422197. We have come to assess your species." The human's face showed an expression the translation matrix identified as mild amusement. "Assess in what capacity, Admiral?" Secretary General Liang asked. "To determine your place in the natural order," Christak explained, as if to a child. "All species are ranked according to strength. The CVAC, having evolved on the most challenging world known to exist, stand at the apex. Others are categorized beneath us, paying appropriate tribute based on their ranking." The human made a sound that the Matrix translated as laughter, a response so inappropriate that Christak checked the translation systems for errors. "I see," Liang replied. "And how do you propose to conduct this assessment?" "A series of challenges," Christak stated. 5 trials to measure true strength. It is the way we have evaluated all species since joining the galactic community." "And if we refuse?" The question stunned Christak. No species had ever refused evaluation. The consequences were too severe. "Then we would be forced to assume you rank at the bottom of all known species, with tribute requirements to match," he answered after recovering his composure. The human seemed to consider this. "Very well, Admiral. We accept your challenges. However, we request these trials be conducted with mutual observers and according to equitable procedures." "Granted," Christak agreed readily. Such procedural concerns were trivial. Strength was absolute. No amount of observation would change biological reality. "We will prepare a delegation to meet with you. Perhaps you'd care to send representatives to our International Space Station as a neutral meeting ground." Christak agreed, and the communication ended immediately. Travak approached. "Admiral, with respect, why waste time with formal challenges? Our scans confirm these humans are physically inferior in every measurable way." Christak's 4 eyes focused on the blue planet below. Procedure must be followed. Travak. Besides, he added, I find myself curious. How did such weak creatures achieve so much? The answer may prove valuable to the Council. Little did he know how profound that question would become. The International Space Station seemed absurdly fragile to Sivak's sensibilities, a collection of metal canisters held together in vacuum with minimal shielding. That humans voluntarily lived in such a vulnerable structure only reinforced Christak's assessment of their recklessness. The Sivak delegation, consisting of Christak, Travak, and Pip, boarded using environmental suits. Those scans had confirmed the atmosphere was breathable, if uncomfortably moist and oxygen-rich. Pride demanded they demonstrate their superior preparation. The humans who greeted them were diverse in coloration, but uniformly small and soft-looking. Secretary General Liang was accompanied by several others introduced as ambassadors and scientists. Welcome aboard the ISS. Liang greeted them. This station represents cooperation between previously competing nations and has been continuously inhabited for over a century. Christak's environmental sensors detected no weapons, no defenses beyond basic life support. These humans stood before apex predators completely exposed. Either they were suicidally brave or catastrophically naive. Let us discuss the 5 challenges, he said, dispensing with pleasantries. Traditionally, we test pure strength, endurance, combat prowess, problem-solving, and adaptation to hostile environments. The humans nodded agreeably, too agreeably. These seem reasonable. Liang responded. We propose conducting these trials on Earth, where both our species can be properly accommodated. Would tomorrow be acceptable? Travak's hunting crests flared in surprise at such haste, but Christak simply nodded. We shall witness your inevitable ranking. Prepare yourselves accordingly. What followed was a tour of the space station, a courtesy Christak accepted primarily to gather intelligence on human capabilities. What he observed only deepened his confusion. These humans manipulated their environment in ways the Sivak found alien. Rather than adapting themselves to survive space's harshness, they had built elaborate systems to bring their preferred environment with them. Inefficient, Travak muttered privately over their secure communication channel. Biological adaptation is superior to technological dependence. Christak found himself unable to disagree, yet something nagged at him, a question he couldn't quite formulate. Admiral, Pip interjected suddenly, I've been analyzing their historical database. These humans evolved on this same gentle world, but they've spread to environments that should be completely inhospitable to them. Explain, Christak demanded. They maintain research stations in their polar regions where temperatures drop to levels that should freeze their bodily fluids. They've established habitats in deserts that should desiccate their water-dependent tissues. They even build settlements underwater and in mountain ranges where oxygen levels should be insufficient. How? Travak asked, voicing Christak's own question. They change the environments, Pip replied, her tone conveying confusion. Instead of adapting to their surroundings, they alter their surroundings to suit themselves. For the first time in his distinguished career, Christak felt a flicker of uncertainty. The following planetary rotation brought the Sivak delegation to Earth's surface. They selected landing coordinates in a region humans called Nevada, a desert environment that, while mild by Sivar Prime standards, would at least provide the Siviaks some comfort in its relative hostility. A human facility had been hastily prepared. Simple structures surrounded a series of fields and courses clearly designed for the coming trials. Human observers numbered in the hundreds, kept at a safe distance but visible. Global communication devices broadcasted the proceedings to billions more. Christak surveyed the scene with growing anticipation. Public demonstration of CVAC superiority would cement the proper hierarchy from the beginning of this relationship. The first trial is pure physical strength, Christak announced as the official proceedings began. Each species will select 3 champions to lift increasing weights until failure. The human delegation conferred briefly before nodding agreement. Their champions stepped forward, muscular by human standards, but still laughably small compared to the CVAC warriors Christak had selected. The test began. As expected, the CVAC representatives lifted progressively heavier loads with ease. Their evolved musculature, dense bone structure, and superior leverage allowed them to hoist weights that would crush most species. The human champions performed admirably for their kind, but reached their biological limits precisely where CVAC calculations had predicted. Christak was about to declare the first trial conclusively won when one of the human scientists raised a hand. "If I may," the human said, "our demonstration isn't complete." Before Christak could object, a new human stepped forward, average-sized, unremarkable. But this one approached a machine, a mechanical construct with hydraulic limbs. "This is what we call a powered exoskeleton," Liang explained. "Standard issue for our construction workers and emergency responders." The human entered their device, which closed around their body like external musculature, thus equipped. The human proceeded to lift weights that exceeded even what the CVAC champions had managed. "Oh, this is not natural strength," Travak objected immediately. Liang tilted his head. "Your criteria specified pure strength, not unassisted biological strength. This is how humans express strength, through our tools and technologies. They are extensions of ourselves." Christak felt his hunting crests involuntarily flatten against his skull, a sign of confusion rarely displayed by CVAC leadership. "The challenge measures evolved capability," he insisted, "and we evolved large brains instead of large muscles." Another human scientist interjected, "Our strength is in our minds, which create these technologies. This is the pure expression of human strength." Before Christak could formulate a response, Liang continued, "Shall we proceed to the endurance trial?" The second trial began with similar parameters. CVAC and human representatives would perform physically demanding tasks until exhaustion. Again, the unaugmented humans reached their limits predictably early. The CVAC, with their multiple hearts, efficient respiratory systems, and superior thermal regulation, continued for hours beyond. Victory seemed assured until, once again, the humans revealed their alternative approach. This time, they deployed shifts of personnel, rotating fresh humans into the trial. "This violates the spirit of the test," Christak protested. "Does it?" Liang countered calmly. "Endurance for humans isn't individual, it's collective. We endure through cooperation and teamwork. One human may tire, but humanity continues. This is how we've endured as a species." The third trial, combat prowess, followed a similar pattern. Individual CVAC warriors easily overpowered individual human fighters despite the humans' surprisingly effective techniques. But then, the humans demonstrated their military vehicles, their coordinated tactics, their remote weapon systems. Combat isn't just about who can claw hardest. A human military advisor explained. It's about effectiveness, strategic thinking, force multiplication. With each trial, Christak's certainty eroded further. The problem-solving challenge revealed humans to be surprisingly creative, approaching problems from angles no CVAC would consider. Where CVAC thinking was linear and strength-oriented, humans seemed to delight in finding unexpected solutions, often using minimal resources with maximum efficiency. By the time they reached the fifth trial, adaptation to hostile environments, Christak had begun to anticipate the pattern. Sure enough, while CVAC physiology allowed them to withstand environmental extremes that would kill humans instantly, the humans demonstrated their environmental suits, their habitat modules, their terraforming capabilities. On worlds too cold, we bring heat. Liang explained as human technicians demonstrated a portable shelter deploying in seconds, transforming the desert heat to Arctic cold inside, then back to comfortable human parameters. On worlds too hot, we bring cooling, too airless, we bring atmosphere, too radiation-soaked, we bring shielding. Christak stared at their demonstration, a profound realization slowly crystallizing. You don't adapt to the world, he said finally. You make the world adapt to you. Liang smiled. Precisely. Admiral, that is humanity's evolutionary advantage. We recognized early that changing ourselves has biological limits, but changing our environment has virtually none. The report to the Supreme Hunt Council was met with disbelief, then outrage. Christak stood before the assembled CVAC leadership, his posture proper, but his hunting crests partially lowered, a subtle sign of his internal conflict. These humans reject the fundamental principle of adaptation. One elder council member growled, "They cheat nature itself." With respect, Christak replied carefully, "They simply adapted differently than we did. Where we developed bodies to survive our world, they developed minds to reshape theirs." "They are physically inferior," another council member insisted. "Their natural place is beneath us." "Their bodies, yes," Christak acknowledged, "but their technology exceeds ours in many domains. They transform hostile environments into habitable ones at a scale we've never attempted. They extend their natural capabilities through machines in ways we've never considered, and they collaborate more effectively than any species we've encountered." The chamber filled with angry clicking and hissing as council members expressed their displeasure. Travak, standing beside Christak as witness, remained silent but attentive. "What do you propose, Admiral?" the council leader finally asked. "Should we simply ignore millennia of evolutionary philosophy, because one soft-skinned species builds clever toys?" Christak chose his words with exceptional care. "I propose we reconsider our definition of strength. Council leader, the humans do not fit our traditional hierarchy, but they cannot be dismissed. They've achieved in centuries what took us millennia, precisely because they focus on changing their surroundings rather than waiting for evolution to change them. You suggest we treat them as equals?" The very concept seemed to physically pain the council leader. "I suggest we treat them as different, but formidable." Christak clarified. "Their approach to survival challenges our assumptions, but its effectiveness cannot be denied. They've colonized environments that would kill unprotected CVAC, despite their biological fragility." The debate raged for days. Conservative council members argued for traditional classification and tribute requirements. Others, influenced by Christak's first-hand observations, advocated for a new category altogether. In the end, pragmatism prevailed. The humans' technological capabilities made them potentially valuable allies rather than tributaries. The Terran-Krivar Cooperation Accord was drafted, establishing diplomatic relations between humanity and the CVAC Dominion. A unique embassy was constructed in Earth's Himalayan mountains, a compromise environment challenging enough to satisfy CVAC dignity while remaining accessible to humans with their technological assistance. One solar cycle later, Christak stood beside Secretary General Liang, observing the first joint project between their species, a training facility where CVAC warriors and human engineers work together to solve survival scenarios. They're learning from each other. Liang noted with satisfaction. Your people teaching biological adaptation techniques, ours demonstrating technological approaches. Christak watched as a young CVAC warrior awkwardly operated a human exoskeleton, while a human scientist studied CVAC thermal regulation with obvious fascination. We still find your reliance on technology inefficient. Christak admitted, true strength comes from within. Liang smiled. And we find your biological adaptations limiting. Why wait generations for evolution when you can build a solution today? Perhaps both approaches have merit. Christak conceded, surprising himself with the thought. The hunter and the problem solver, Liang suggested. Different paths to the same goal. Survival. Christak's hunting crests lifted slightly, a gesture of cautious optimism rarely seen in CVAC diplomacy. We have existed for millions of years, weathering conditions that would obliterate your species in moments. And we've gone from stone tools to interplanetary civilization in less than 10,000 years. Liang countered without hostility. Imagine what we might accomplish together. For the first time since encountering humanity, Christak felt something beyond confusion or philosophical crisis. It was an emotion rare among his kind, one that evolution on a Deathworld generally selected against: curiosity about the future. Indeed, he said finally, that may be the greatest strength of all. As years passed, the relationship between humans and CVAC evolved beyond anything Christak had imagined possible. The initial embassy expanded into a substantial cultural exchange center. Human environmental engineers worked alongside CVAC biologists to develop hybrid approaches to colonizing worlds previously considered uninhabitable by either species alone. Travac, once skeptical of human methods, now headed the Joint Military Training Program, where CVAC warriors learned human strategic thinking while humans studied CVAC physical techniques. She had come to appreciate what she called the elegant efficiency of human problem-solving. They accomplish more with less. She told Christak during one of their regular strategic reviews, where we would apply overwhelming force, they find pressure points. It's admirable. The Supreme Hunt Council, while still maintaining CVAC evolutionary superiority in principle, had pragmatically embraced human technological exchange. CVAC ships now incorporated human environmental systems. Human habitats featured CVAC-inspired biological reinforcement. The distinction between evolved and engineered solutions began to blur. Perhaps most significantly, the broader Galactic Council had been forced to reconsider its hierarchical structure. Other species, inspired by humanity's example, began asserting their own unique evolutionary advantages. The tribute system, while not abolished, became increasingly ceremonial rather than exploitative. On the anniversary of first contact, Christak found himself once again standing beside Secretary General Liang, this time observing the graduation ceremony of the first jointly trained xenobiological response team, specialists capable of making any environment habitable for either species. 5 years ago, I would have considered this heresy, Christak admitted. CVAC adapted to environments. We didn't modify them. Liang nodded thoughtfully. And we humans often modified without understanding the deeper biological patterns. Both approaches had blind spots. A young human approached, accompanied by a young CVAC. Both wore environmental suits of hybrid design, part biological enhancement, part technological protection. Admiral, Secretary General. The human greeted them formally. Team Alpha requests permission to depart for the Proxima Centauri expedition. Christak studied them with all 4 eyes. The human, physically unimpressive by CVAC standards, nonetheless carried herself with confidence earned through rigorous training. The young Sivek, stronger but now comfortable with technological assistance, showed none of the disdain earlier generations would have displayed. You represent the future of both our species, Christak told them. Remember, strength takes many forms. As they departed, Liang turned to Christak. You've come a long way from demanding we acknowledge Sivak's superiority, as have you from insisting technology always trumps biology. Christak countered. Perhaps true strength lies in recognizing when to adapt ourselves and when to adapt our surroundings, and in knowing we're stronger together than either of us could be alone. Liang added. Christak's hunting crests lifted fully, a gesture of respect rarely shown to non-Sivak. The day we met humanity, I thought we were encountering the weakest spacefaring species in the galaxy. I was wrong. You simply expressed strength differently than we recognized. And you, Liang replied, weren't the terrifying apex predators we expected, but thoughtful beings capable of reconsidering even your most fundamental beliefs. Around them, humans and Sivak worked together, each contributing their evolutionary gifts to challenges neither could optimally solve alone. The hunter and the problem solver, united in purpose if different in method. It was, Christak reflected, a strength greater than anything Savar Prime had forged in its merciless crucible. Not the strength of survival against all odds, but the strength to transcend mere survival altogether, to thrive through cooperation despite differences. The strongest Deathworld species had indeed met humanity, and both had become stronger for it.